NASA's massive moon program finally had liftoff after multiple failed attempts to launch. The Artemis moon program is NASA's baby for deep space exploration and building the foundation for future missions on Mars. Artemis 1's first flight launched on November 16th, and all eyes are on it. In this video, we'll talk about the status of NASA's Artemis 1 mission's 10 Cubesats and initial reactions to the first images of space this mission gave us. First up, NASA's Artemis 1 mission finally makes headway. The moment is finally here. After several delays and unfortunate malfunctions, NASA has done it. They've sent their first Artemis mission with the help of its powerful Space Launch System rocket. The billion-dollar mission is just the first of many that are part of NASA's overall Artemis moon program. The space agency had a successful liftoff on November 16th, and now the uncrewed Orion spacecraft is successfully on its way to the moon. Alongside the spacecraft, the mission was supposed to take a handful of Cubesats that would perform various missions of their own in deep space. So, what are these Cubesats, which are gaining everyone's attention? Well, the most powerful rocket ever built was designed to not only carry Orion, but also take another payload for deep space missions. These are a series of satellites that are only the size of shoeboxes and will be jettisoned as the mission travels toward the moon. The secondary payload only comprises 10 of these satellites, which will help astronomers monitor Earth and protect our astronauts. NASA recently confirmed that most of the Cubesats had been confirmed to be operational, apart from a few which are experiencing some technical difficulties. BioSentinel, LunaMap, Argomoon, Aquilius, and Omotenashi have all been tagged as operational, with only Omotenashi experiencing some problems. As the Orion looped around the moon, most of these Cubesats checked in as NASA mentioned that they were able to recharge some batteries on them after the September launch delay of Artemis 1 due to the hurricane. But promising data has already started to pour in, with many experts taking it to Twitter and discussing the potential future of these Cubesats. Following that, how are Artemis 1's 10 Cubesats doing? Most of the Cubesats are doing great, according to various experts who posted the updates on Twitter. They informed that NASA was preparing for a long battle with Omotenashi, as it's their last chance for a moon landing with the Cubesat, but the agency will try every means possible for a lunar landing until time runs out. The official Twitter account of Agenzia Spaziale ITA shared the spectacular images of Earth and the moon taken by the Argomoon Cubesat, which is successfully continuing its journey after separating from the SLS. There was another update about a second Cubesat called Aquilius, which will make a spectacular lunar flyby with the closest approach altitude of about 5,000 kilometers. LunaMap posted on Cubesat's Twitter account informing the enthusiasts about the upcoming lunar flyby and that all systems are healthy and ready to go. NASA Goddard was happy to announce that the IceCube mission has successfully made contact after deployment from the Artemis launch. The Cubesat is fitted with Goddard's Birch's instrument, which will help the Cubesat study and locate lunar ice with assistance from an enhanced infrared spectrometer. While it's great to hear about these satellites being in good shape, some haven't been as lucky. Omotenashi has passed its expected deadline for contact, but NASA is still hoping for the best. As for Terran Orbital, it also hasn't provided an update since its deployment from the Artemis mission. Recent reports suggest that the satellite might be experiencing some anomalies. We've also got our fingers crossed for Near-Earth Asteroid Scout, which has been silent ever since its launch. Efforts are being made by NASA's Deep Space Network of antenna dishes for recovery. Next up, what is the mission of these Cubesats? NASA's Cubesats are like miniaturized spacecraft, or a type of nano-satellite that will be used for exploration, relay communication, engineering support, space-based science, and Earth observation. The payload on Artemis's mission was 10, with each of these Cubesats having a mass somewhere between 2.2 and 22 pounds. Each of these 5 miniature satellites deployed by Artemis has a specific space mission that will pave the way for future Artemis and other space missions. Since one of the key goals for the moon mission is to explore the options of infrastructure in space or on the moon, it's extremely important to cover all bases. In order for us to one day live in space, the thing we're looking for is sustainability, and that's exactly what the Lunar IceCube 6U Cubesat will do for us. It was developed by Morehead State University in collaboration with NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, and this is the machine that will help astronomers sniff out water and related resources on the moon. Then there's the NEA Scout, which will be making observations about asteroids. It's a robotic reconnaissance mission that will send data and images of its target asteroid back to Earth. One of the more sophisticated CubeSats deployed by Artemis is the BioSentinel. It's a project that's essential in studying and collecting information on how to protect astronauts from radiation and other hazards during deep space travel. The CubeSat will use yeast as a model organism to determine the effects of radiation on living organisms in space, so that one day, when our great-grandkids are living in space, they don't have to go through anything as they did in that show called 100. Coming up, the first images from Artemis 1 bring back memories. Word is that not only the Artemis mission is on track, but spectacular imagery has already started to come in, and it will blow people's minds. Of course, it's not as spectacular as the ones from James Webb, but they will definitely take you back to memory lane. For those of you who remember, the snapshots of our little blue planet from the Orion spacecraft take us back to the classic photos taken by Apollo astronauts some 50 years ago. The difference here isn't lost because humans have evolved enough to now take those pictures through robots built on unmanned missions. Artemis is NASA's way of making human voyages into deep space and other parts of the moon possible, but the nostalgia of seeing the planet half-shadowed against the black backdrop of the vast space is just undefinable. Only hours after the historic launch, the camera mounted on the uncrewed spacecraft swung around to take these memorable 57,000 miles from Earth as it traveled towards the moon. The blue glow was captured by one of the 16 cameras mounted on the spacecraft, but this one is present on one of the wings of the Orion service module's solar array. These cameras are more for studying Orion's behavior, especially that of its components from launch to landing. The 4 solar array cameras are capable of taking pictures of both the moon and Earth as the spacecraft zooms past them. NASA's official Twitter account also posted time-lapse footage from the Orion as it continues its journey toward our moon. Up next, the wonders Orion would do aboard the most magnificent space rocket ever built was one-of-a-kind, uncrewed spacecraft called Orion. As of this video, the spacecraft is successfully on its intended course while taking selfies along the way. The Orion deployed 10 satellites and took pictures in its first 24 hours, but the coming week is quite crucial for the mission. As we move on, the Artemis 1 team will be monitoring Orion's performance through a test run for a manned lunar circumnavigation mission planned for 2024. It'll also go for a manned lunar landing that's planned for 2025. So it's going to be busy years for Orion. By November 21st, Orion would have crossed a major milestone as it whizzes past the moon in proximity to an altitude of about 60 miles. While it does all that, the mannequins occupying the seats in Orion will collect data on radiation exposure through sensors and other aspects of the space environment on humans. President Biden even shared a beautiful liftoff shot on Twitter, captioning it with complete pride. His tweet read that the Artemis program would enable the first person of color and the first woman to set foot on the moon's surface and show America's limitless possibilities to the world. And finally, NASA gives the public a unique invitation. Since Mars isn't getting off the list anytime soon, NASA thought, why not take the public's take on how to approach the red planet. So the space agency has put out an invitation and is seeking public comments on a draft environmental impact statement that's part of NASA's Mars Sample Return campaign. The public is welcome to give their opinion via mail, online, or even through a series of in-person and virtual meetings. It's these kinds of things for which nerds like Dexter, Phineas and Ferb, and Johnny Test were created for. In collaboration with the European Space Agency, NASA is planning to land robots on Mars by 2027 and 2028 to retrieve samples of the atmosphere and rocks currently being gathered by NASA's Perseverance rover. So yeah, we might actually get to see the famous red dust when we're 50 or 60. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think NASA could put people on the moon? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.